Good morning. Welcome to Say Something Real. This is Keith Parris sitting in for your host, Miss Michelle Bryant, who is summaring.
I said Keith is late.
No, Keith was on time. Keith was on time. Keith beat the staff here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I slept outside just so I wouldn't be late. Okay, scroll down a little bit. Go back up a little bit, Clark. I know Michelle always acknowledges the first person. So this morning it was Eva Kenya.
Oh, wow.
Eva Kenya got in at 7 o'clock. Yep. Followed by Henry Peters. And then, of course, Happiness Donuts. So, again, good morning. Good morning.
Al Walker was in first for the past 2 days.
Yeah, well, Al lost today. Yeah. So, good morning. I got 4 hours.
Well,
not 4 hours.
Four.
Well,
you know what? One thing
we got four.
We got four.
We got four.
One thing I know for sure.
F-O. Four. We got four.
Okay.
F-O-E.
All right.
Let me shout out, like a daughter to me, the lovely Miss Jade Strickland McDuffie. Happy birthday, Jade. Another trip around the sun. Yade, I call her. She called me Poppy, and I call her Yade. So good morning, Yade. Happy birthday to you. All right, let me do this. Michelle's program is usually centered around politics, so I'm going to do what she normally does, which is agitate y'all about politics. Again, August 11th is primary election day. You can still vote early. Early voting ends on August 9th, which would be Sunday. I think tomorrow would be August the 7th is the last day I think you can register early. So let me just give you the sites today. View all sites. There you go. Good Hope Library from 10:30 to 5:30. Midtown Voting Center, 8:30 to 5:30. Tippecanoe Library, 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. The Washington Park Senior Center, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Zablocki Library, 10:30 to 5:30 p.m. Zeiler Municipal Building, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then let me go to, so it's open tomorrow. Let's do Saturday. Saturday, Good Hope Library, 9:30 to 4:30. Midtown Voting Center, 9:30 to 3:30 on Saturday. Note the change in time. Tippecanoe Library, 9:30 to 4:30. Washington Park Senior Center is closed on Saturday for early voting. Zablocki Library, 9:30 to 4:30. And the Zeidler Building from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Let's do Sunday. I don't know if they did souls to the polls already, but let's look at Sunday. Good Hope Library, 10:30 to 2 p.m. Midtown Voting Center, 10:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Note the time change. Washington Park Senior Center closed. Zablocki Library closed. And then Zeidler Municipal from 11 a.m. to 2:30. And then you can also vote on Monday, August the 3rd, early. Good Hope Library, Midtown Voting Center, 8:30 to 5:30. Good Hope Library, 12:30 to 7:30. Tippecanoe Library, 12:30 to 7:30 p.m. Washington Park Senior Center, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Zablocki Library, 12:30 to 7:30 p.m. And you can use the drop boxes at the various locations up until 6 p.m. on Tuesday, Election Day. So you can use drop boxes up to 6 p.m. on Election Day. So if you're like me, I've already voted, and you can. I use the drop box at at Atkinson Library here.
Atkinson not on that list?
But those are no. These were like in person.
Okay.
I can give you the drop box. Let me give you.
But I'm talking about as far as going to the library to vote. Atkinson
Early
Library?
vote or
Yeah, for the early vote.
No, they're not part of early voting. Oh, they're a drop box location.
Oh, okay.
So let me pull up the drop box locations. I'm laughing because, if two people talk to plan something, it becomes a conspiracy.
You going back to that again?
No.
Oh, okay.
So it's a conspiracy, right? Two or more individuals coming together.
Right.
There's a conspiracy, and so I dropped off. I don't care. Prosecute me. I dropped off my ballot and Rhonda's ballot at Atkinson, right?
Yeah.
And so Rhonda said, "Did you drop off my ballot?" So I can't have this conversation with you. I don't know what happened to your ballot. I don't know. Because one time we early voted, not early voted, we dropped off ballots after church over at Midtown. That's when they were probably on that west there on the other side of Pick and Say. And the brother was out there. We pulled up, and Rhonda obviously sitting in the passenger side. She handed him the two ballots, our two envelopes. And he looked, and it was almost like, well, I need to take it out of his hand and take it out of your hand. They call that harvesting when you take the vote in. But I did go in my vote. My ballot has been received. I went to my vote. And again, if you want to know your voting status, go to my vote, WI, and you can check to see what your status is. There have been some changes in locations, polling locations, and so you might have been voting in one location. I would check if you're going to vote. Now, if you're early voting, it doesn't really matter where you go. But if you're voting on election day, I would suggest that you go to my vote just before you leave to make sure that your voting location has not changed. So, again, early voting in the city of Milwaukee. They did give some stats on votes received already in the city. Let me pull that up. I don't know. I thought that this would be a high turnout election. But right now, again, and this is in the city of Milwaukee, partisan primary early voting, cumulative totals, unofficial results, 6,001 ballots cast, 449 dropped off, and 277 through registration. So when they give you can go in and see based on the activity. Let's see, where's Midtown? Well, normally Midtown is number one in the city of Milwaukee, but actually it's been Tippecanoe. Tippecanoe has had 210 folks who voted already early voting. Midtown at 190. And then, the Zeidler building has 285. Again, and then you can see the registration at these different locations. So, am I doing this right? Yep. Oh, let me give you the most recent one. No, that's an old one. Okay. What is day 7 on Thursday? Sunday, day 6. This is crazy. Oh, I'm going up. I'm correct. That's the most recent one. Have a caller? Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your information. I vote at St. Mark, and a couple years ago, it really made me angry to see these election observers asking people in line what their addresses were so they could help them find their wards. And at first I said, well, no, something isn't right here. Election observers are not even supposed to talk to people in line. Because I talked to the lady that was in charge of St. Mark, and she said she told those people to stop asking folks in line what their addresses were, but they keep doing it. I said, I tell you what, I'm going to call the election commission. And I did. And they told me observers, people to just come and observe, are not supposed to talk to people, to
That's
voters
correct.
in line.
That's correct.
So I was on it.
Did they have a section? Because they're supposed to be in a section. I know when I went in as an observer, as part of the press, they had me in I could move around a little bit, but the interaction in terms of people there in the actual polling place, they're not supposed to. So if that does happen, you should let the polling chief know that there's inappropriate contact. Inappropriate contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they shouldn't. And I think part of that is intimidation. Like the so-called election monitors, people coming in to make sure they're fair. That's not what they're there for. They're there to intimidate people.
Right. And just to think these folks were giving these people their address and they were putting it in their phones.
Yeah. No.
So there was a section, but they were mingling right in the line.
Yep.
So I appreciate you and WNOV. Have a good day.
All right, let me do this. And let me do this, man. My bad. See, I'm not used to working this early. Good morning, Clark Kent.
Who you with?
Hey, man. Somebody had to put it in the chat room. Apostle.
Bishop, see, I wasn't going to say nothing because you was on the roll.
Yeah.
But I was going to wait to the end of the show and be like, well,
We're
just nobody.
Hey, Keith.
Yes, sir.
So when y'all were just talking about the people coming to ask for your address, is they part of it?
They don't supposed to do that.
No, they're observers.
So they're not supposed to talk at all.
They're not supposed to be talking or interacting with the voters.
So what are they observing?
They're not there. Well, it depends on who it is because both parties have observers. Right. I mean, but there are rules, and it's up to the chief of that polling place to make sure that those rules are abided by. Yeah. Because there's even things like, can the candidate come in to a polling place and only to vote, right? How much electioneering you could do in terms of how close you can be to a polling place where you're actually campaigning. So there's all these rules out there. I tell you one that didn't see it as violated this much this year, but on these boulevard stops, there shouldn't be any kind of partisan campaign signs out there, and people will do it until the city catches up with them. But I know out here, I used to look out and I would see where people put the signs out there, because it's a well-traveled area. You want to put it out there. Let me do this. There's going to be an on-site pop-up activation. We'll offer free vision tests and prescription glasses this weekend. Just in time, back to school, Alderman Mark Chambers Jr. said Ray-Ban and Clicks are hosting an on-site pop-up activation providing free vision tests and prescription glasses for students ages 5 and up on Saturday, August the 8th and Sunday, August the 9th at the Silver Spring Neighborhood Center, 5460 North 64th Street. Alderman Chambers says the pop-up offers an incredible value, encourages anyone interested to take advantage of the opportunity. Good vision is essential for success in school, work, and everyday life. If you or someone you know could benefit from this opportunity, please register and share the post to help others reach more families, he said. Registration is required. Services are available by appointment only. So participants are encouraged to register and book an appointment as soon as possible. You can register at onsite.clinic/OS2945. And again, that's this on-site activation clinic where people can go in. One of the things that a lot of students struggle with is they can't see, right? Or hearing. And that's why schools do hearing and vision tests to see where kids are, because a lot of times they just can't, like I was a tall kid. And so if you're a tall kid, they put you in the back of the class. And so I didn't realize at that point I was nearsighted. So it makes a difference. So if, again, this is free, you can go out and get glasses for your kids. I know I see a lot of the older brothers I'm working with, man, and they're squinting like, dog, you need glasses, man. I know vanity, but man, the fact that you can see, eyes was once blind, but now I see. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone in the studio. I just wanted to comment on the election observers' duties. Their duty is to observe the voting process, and there is no voting process going on outside. So that chief should have asked that observer to leave. I have been a chief at a location, and this was during the Obama election, and I had an observer who wanted to stand at the front door with the arms folded, and
and unfortunately, it was a white guy. He just wanted, and I was in a polling location, and he wanted to stand there with his arms folded, watching everyone come in the door. And I said, "No, you can't do this." He said, "I'm an observer." I said, "Your job is to observe the voting process, and there's no voting going on at the front door." So then he wanted to stand outside and act like he was using his cell phone, but still intimidating the voters. And I said, "No, you got to go to your car and use the cell phone." And then I told him, "If you continue, I'm going to call the police." Chiefs can call the police and ask the police to remove these observers if they're not cooperating.
Okay. And let me say, as a pollster, because I used to do exit polling, I have to be, now some, depending on who you know, like the people down in Racine was pretty cool. You know, they didn't have me outside. They gave me a nice little location out in the lobby. Because in some instances, some of the exit pollers are actually outside in the elements. And I know one year I was outside in the elements, but X number of distance from the polling place, the actual where people are actually casting votes. And so I was limited until where I could go to ask questions about. Now, the other thing that we do when we're doing the exit polling is then we will sit there and I think you tally the number of votes cast. There's a tape that comes out. And so then we can get a tape of the number of people who voted. And that goes into, you know, statistical formulation in terms of how valid a lot of these findings are based on the number of people that voted.
Right. And I think with the observers, I think a statute is 6 to 8 feet from the registration table, the voting booth, and the machine. Right. So yeah, some of these observers can get pretty testy, and they kind of sometimes want to run over the chiefs. But the chiefs have to be strong and stand their ground and take over your location, and don't let these observers. I normally vote absentee because I'm working election day, but I will still go into my polling location on election day on my lunch hour just to make sure these observers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so, all right.
Well, appreciate you.
My call. Okay,
and speaking of access to voting, let me do this. I saw this this morning as I was preparing for 4 hours. Oh, let me shout out Kennedy. I think she's still in the car. Good morning. I told you I'd shout you out. I know she's on her way. Today's her last day at day camp. So, hey, Kennedy. I used to do that when we were little, that commercial, Kennedy. And she go back, Poppy. So we would shout out. Let me pull up the article. Okay. And I don't know if this decision was reached yesterday. Yeah. Paper-only absentee ballots deny disabled Wisconsin voters equal access, a judge rules. Absentee voting in Wisconsin discriminates against disabled voters, a judge ruled Tuesday, siding with groups that are seeking to force election officials to allow for electronic casting of ballots. But Dane County Circuit Court Judge Everett Mitchell, and he ran for Supreme Court, right? Stopped short of ordering electronic voting, setting up a trial on that issue later. It's almost certainly will not be resolved before the November election. Disability Rights Wisconsin, the League of Women Voters, and 4 disabled voters brought the lawsuit in 2024. He argued that the lack of an electronic absentee voting option violated their rights to independence and privacy and the protection of the American with Disabilities Act. Mitchell issued a temporary injunction in 2024 saying that disabled voters should have the option to vote electronically. But an appeals court reversed that ruling, sending it back to the lower court, saying it was wrong to issue a temporary injunction that would have changed and significantly disrupted the status quo. The Republican-controlled legislature is fighting the lawsuit. So again, Everett Mitchell there in Dane County has ruled that right now, based on how we do early voting, that it could be discriminatory to people who are disabled. That was one, I didn't even know that lawsuit was out there, but two, it makes perfect sense. that there should be no encumbrance. You know, we were talking about, I don't know who I was talking to about this thing about if you go and request a birth certificate to get an ID to vote, that birth certificate should be free. To charge you for that birth certificate so you can go vote would be considered a poll tax, which is still illegal. There's not much left in the Civil Rights Act. I mean, in the Voting Rights Act of 1965, but that would be considered a poll tax. So if you have some young folks there who want to register to vote, they need their birth certificate in order to be able to do that. If they're going again, and then I heard that, I think my wife was telling me that you can also go to the municipal building and that they can go in. There's a national database. You know, one of the issues that people had was certain people born in certain parts of the country during a certain period of time in this country may or may not have access to their birth certificates for whatever reasons, right? And that's one of the issues around the SAVED Act, where people would have to go and improve their citizenship. And we don't know, does that mean that if that act passed that you'd have to prove your citizenship all over again, which means that people all over the country would have to re-register to vote. That's a voting suppression move, because with a lot of people, man, it ain't worth the effort. You know, the issue becomes women who get married, right? And they take on their husband's last name. That will not be reflected in your birth record, you know, your first government name. And so that could really be an issue. Right now, I did ask Congresswoman Moore yesterday, what's the chances? I know Trump really wants to see this passed because Trump doing a radio program in here. Voices from the other room. Because one of the things is if you have strong turnout, that benefits Democrats. Strong turnouts usually benefits Democrats, right? And so one of the things that they're trying to do, and they have been trying to do, is suppress the number of voters. It makes voting more difficult, right? And so then people are less inclined, well, who does that benefit from? Who benefits from that? Usually Republicans, usually, not in every case, but usually Republicans. So strong turnout will really benefit Democrats. And I think that this election for governor, and we'll talk a little bit about this because I'll do some actual polling for you all who are listening this morning, I think Wisconsin, in spite of how Republicans are trying to paint this whole picture, is going to be a turnout election. And we'll talk about some of the factors that can contribute to a strong or low turnout when we get back. We're inside Say Something Real. I'm Keith Parris, sitting in for Miss Michelle Bryant. Again, the phone lines are open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. You can also follow us on Facebook and YouTube, and certainly your comments are valued. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, good morning. Hey, can dudes be jamming to It's Ladies Night?
Yeah, because, man, I'm looking at all the ladies that come out.
I mean, you know, because I'm sitting over here, and I was jamming, but can dudes jam to that one?
Yeah, I was jamming to it.
Okay.
It's Ladies Night. And the
Say
feeling is always
say what?
I'm always jamming to it when I play it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
What about there's a meeting in the ladies' room?
Oh, yeah.
Do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm standing
Be
outside,
back
like,
real soon.
That's that beat.
Do.
I said it like this.
That's that beat. That's that beat.
There's some meetings in the ladies' room.
Do.
You know what? You know what? When that record came out, a lot of guys started standing by the ladies' room.
Me?
Really?
Yeah.
You know what they was going to the ladies' room to do, right?
Hey, I was joining them. I didn't care.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, Tom Tiffany's running ads. No men in ladies' restrooms.
What's wrong with this guy?
Have you seen these commercials?
Yeah, man.
I don't even look at me.
Oh my God, man! I mean, you would think that. Oh man, you know the Dems. Dems need to get this resolved, okay? Because right now, you know, there's a little echo chamber out there, and all those folks, because I say it all the time, man, people don't like changing the status quo. They might, there might be some discomfort, change my discomfort, but we don't want to change the status quo. And so this idea of men and women's sports, like, come on, man, that don't happen.
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really believe, and I'm sorry to say it, but I really believe that some of these Republicans, some of these movers and shakers are wolves in sheep clothing. Because when they came here for this Republican convention, and for them to be so against, this whole gay agenda, it was crazy.
Not the gays.
It was crazy how Grindr broke the internet here. And for those people that don't know what Grindr is,
well,
just Google it and find out.
Okay. Thank you.
I ain't gonna say it, but just Google it.
I think Kennedy got dropped off. I don't want Kennedy to know what Grindr is at this point.
Google it. But for them to be so against it and then point that arrow at the Democrats is crazy to me, because again, when you look at statistics, when they came here,
hey, look,
broke the internet, man.
Yeah, but it ain't just politics. Religious groups. There's a lot of people who come out and take a public stand on something and have a very private, different private reality.
Exactly.
It's something Bishop Yvette Plunder said. She said, she's talking to clergy. She said, your pulpit needs to line up with your bedroom.
And that's true, man.
And so when she dropped that little line, because and look, I understand some of these things are real career killers. If you sit up and think about the situation with Mandela Barnes, he's a single man. But let's say now the allegations were something else. I think people would have a very different reaction. They wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's cool, live your truth." America, we haven't moved to that point yet. So that certainly, and regardless of the party, that one is like, Lindsey Graham. It was all these rumors about his sexuality, but then he's in the Republican Party, and obviously the Republican Party is very anti-LGBTQ. That's why we're talking about transgender, because they understand that resonates emotionally with people. Like your brain, how we process information a lot of times is that we get something. Remember, we're talking about the dog Pablo, right? And stimulus response. And there's certain conditioning that happens in our brain and our society. And then we have knee-jerk reactions to things based on, just based on our. I was talking to my niece last night, and we were talking about that conversation we were having about does it exist beyond the door? And she went to Marquette. So in Marquette, they're it's part of their core. They're required to take theology. They're required to take ethics, and I think they're required to take philosophy. And that's one of the things that came up. Phone lines open, y'all. Phone lines are open. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. So here's my questions. I have several questions. Have you made up your mind who you're supporting in the primary? Have you made up your mind who you're supporting in the primary? And then what are some of the factors that influence you when you decide to support a certain candidate? Now, look, when you call in, you don't have to tell us who you vote for. But I'm curious to how many people made up their minds. We're about 5 days out from the election. And I just want to know, kind of where people are. I mean, it's it's been so, what's the word? There's a lot of craziness, that's kind of going on. No one could have told me back in April that a candidate would drop out the race and then get back in the race, and then another candidate would drop out the race, right? We've had three candidates that's dropped out on the Democratic side, and one of them rejoined. I know there's an article in the Journal Sentinel about some of the issues that Sarah Rodriguez was dealing with in terms of her campaign finance. But again, I told folks I haven't seen anything this crazy since 2020, the spring election in 2020. So I don't know. Have people made up their minds? Are you going to vote? I mean, how many people even going to vote in the primary?
I think they're going to wait until the day of. I think that's when most of them going to turn out.
You do?
Yeah, I got a feeling.
I don't know. I'm kind of getting the sense that this, what was it, 2018, we had a very strong midterm election primary turnout. That was the year I think Ernell Lucas was on the ballot for sheriff. It was a big turnout because 2018, yeah, that was a response to Trump. So I just wonder what are some of the factors here, because right now people are kind of, they don't know. I mean, you're hearing what you're hearing, right? So we hear that Francesca Hahn is, right now she's leading in the polling. That's based on the Marquette Law School poll. I think she's at about 38%, but then you got about 34% of the people who haven't even made up their minds yet. So I'm just curious, where are we with this? Does it really matter? We just gonna wait until the general election. Is it frustrating? What are you doing? And then if you haven't voted yet, or if you have voted, what would be some of the factors that you use to determine how you're going to vote? I'm just, because my fear is that people are just going to sit out. That's my fear, that some people are going to use this as an opportunity to say, you know what, it ain't even worth it. It don't matter. I can hear you, man.
Milwaukee is a last minute.
5-2.
Yeah. We last minute, so we'll wait till the last minute and rush to do it.
So you think that's what people are doing? That they're waiting till the last minute?
I think they're waiting to see on who gonna actually.
Well, but people still have a chance to determine the outcome. I mean, if and I don't know if people are in that 34% of undecided at this point who haven't cast a ballot, but right now that 34% is second on the Democratic side. So, can that 34% swing towards Crowley?
It could.
Or are people already saying, well, based on the polling, Francesca Hahn looks like she's going to be the eventual nominee, so what I do really doesn't matter. I'm just curious. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250.
Well, let me ask you, so if whoever wins it, can they make the other one the lieutenant governor, or
say that again? No.
They can't do like that.
No.
Oh shoot.
No.
Kind of like the president, to pick who their vice president is.
Yeah, I'm just, and are there any Will Martin supporters out there? I'd love to hear from you. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. The funny thing is, I know who I want to vote for, but it don't seem like he wants me to vote for him.
Ooh, that's an interesting observation.
You know what I mean?
No, but explain it.
Okay, let me explain it. I got like 4 mailers from Francesca. All right?
Right.
All of them, She's on TV saying she's going to tax the rich, right? Yeah, I mean, she wants me to vote for her so bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as she went for that tax the rich thing, it's just so.
You disagree with taxing, making sure the rich pay their fair share?
But that's not the point.
Okay.
The point is, if my solution to government is tax the rich, it could just be as easily tax the aliens or tax the French.
Okay.
It's not a thing. All right. It's a thing that a kid says. Okay. And well, never mind that. I know that Dave Crowley's a serious politician.
Mm-hmm.
I know him to be that. Because I live in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's like, I don't know if nobody's helping him or, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, okay, you know I'm good. Like, there's a girl, you know I'm good, so why aren't you dating me or whatever? Yeah, you know, there's no approach that I can see. There's no how can you say, movement towards it, you know? I mean,
you're talking about movement towards the Crowley camp?
Yes, it should be. It should be because part of our thing has to be making this government work again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for everybody. And that includes the people on 13th and Chambers. It also includes the people on wherever that is, Brookfield Road. Okay, it's got to be. All right, or, you know, it's going to be, you know, tit for tat forever.
Well, may I ask, in terms of the people that you might, is this election even on their radar, or where are people? It's not like there's not enough fireworks going on that get people's attention, but I'm just curious to, what do you think? So, you know, now part of it with the Crowley campaign is that he had pulled out and then he gets back in. And so, you know, how do you
get in there?
I'm sorry?
I say jump in. You know, I mean, you know, let's make some noise. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that, and this was part of, as you go on, like, what are some of the things that influence you? Obviously, you were saying the issues. So right now, what do you think are the issues that the governor needs to tackle, you know, when they're come January 1st or whenever they assume office?
Well, basically, that woman had it right. The first one to drop out because of the money.
Sarah Rodriguez.
Sarah Rodriguez had it right. We need a governor to keep things right. All right. Can you imagine what would happen if we just gave it to them? You know, I mean, what they do. You know, they do every kind of dirt they could. Mm-hmm. Because they can. Oh. Because we let them.
Well, that's what's happening on the national level.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we got the good old Senator Ron Johnson.
No, and good old President Donald Trump.
Man, and we could have stopped both of them fellas.
Yep.
But like, we have to do it. I mean, I'm going. Like I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to make sure my kids vote. Okay. And my family votes.
Okay. Have you voted already, or are you waiting till?
Oh, me, I'm a half block away from my voting place.
Okay.
I mean, really.
Okay.
It's a morning walk on Tuesday, even if it's raining.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate your observations, man. You know, you spot on. So
I mean, come on, Crowley, let's go.
All right. I know his folks are listening. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Let me expand the question out before we go to break. You know, what are some of the factors that then you use to support or not to support a candidate? Their ethnicity, their party affiliations, resume, positions on issues. Love to hear what you think. I think that the people from those political campaigns would love to hear what you think. Many of us are not part of opinion polls, right? They don't call us. But I think this is a great venue to go out because trust me, they are listening. They are listening. You're listening to Say Something Real. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to Say Something Real. I'm Keith Parris, sitting in for Michelle Bryant. Let's go back to the chat room. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. I'll do this. It says yes, and the support goes to better understanding of democratic socialism, getting the message through. Just because David Crowley didn't follow the rule, just because David Crowley found a rule measuring twice and cutting once, shouldn't exclude him. We've all been there. Good one, Zebra. They agree with him. Ads and flyers cost money. You have to be careful how you spend it, and when you spend it, do your research and vote for your candidate of choice. Again, the phone lines are open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. I'm just curious to have you made up your mind who you're voting for. Are you gonna vote? Well, if you're not gonna vote, don't call in and do that. We want you to go vote. But what are some of the factors that go into how you select a candidate, and how is that fitting in with us here today? Oh man. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Caller, welcome to what's going on, man? Oh, of course. Yeah, when I do the program, there's something wrong with the phone. No, I'm not sitting up here talking about conspiracy. I just want to, know what's going on here when I cover. Let's see. Angela Harris didn't have a problem with the phones. Vivian King didn't have a problem with the phones. But Keith get here, there's a problem with the phones. Okay. We need to have a meeting. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm Annette.
Is this Annette?
Of course.
Hey, boy.
You know me, we the same age, so we sound young.
We don't know that. I'm so tired of y'all trying to make me old.
I say young.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. We the same age.
young folks.
What's happening?
I vote every election, and I try not to miss a beat. I intend to try to vote early. I want to do that. I love to experience going into my polling place, but it didn't come up, but I'm going to try to also work the polls as well. Whether it's phone banking or whatever, this is just too important not to get out and vote. I mean, Medicaid is on the line, SNAP, you name it. They already know. And if they're not looking at the news, that they don't know what's going on. There's just too much on the line not to vote. And so, yes, my mind is made up who I want to vote for. And it was made up a long time ago because I do not want a Republican in office. Okay. We need to clean house.
So let me ask this question. We've been using this, well, I haven't been anyways, come up this word electability. Does it matter? Did your vote, was it factored in your vote, this person who had the best chance to beat Tiffany, or was it something that you really liked particular about the candidate?
It's something that I definitely liked about the candidate a long time ago.
Okay.
And I really believe that he is the most professional person for this position.
And have you voted?
Not yet, but I'm going to be out there today. As soon as I take care of a little business, okay. I'm going to be voting today.
All right. Appreciate you. Good hearing from you.
Good hearing from you too. God bless you. Everybody in the studio.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you. 414-444-5250. And let me say, and it's such a short window. We're voting in person next Tuesday. Actual election day is next Tuesday. So, but I'm wondering how many people, because that 34% undecided, that would probably be inclusive of our community too. So I'm just curious what are some of those factors? What are some of those factors that go into, one, if you voted, if you're going to vote, we suggest you go vote regardless. So I'm curious. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hello?
Good morning.
Yes. I heard you speak about birth certificate earlier. And there's some false information about birth certificate, especially in Wisconsin. You can get what you call a real ID, and it doesn't cost anything if you do not get a driver's license.
And there is something else. The only thing you need birth certificate in Wisconsin for is if you get the star on your card.
On the real ID.
Star, yes, the real ID, a star. The star have all your birth certificate information on it. I was down there and I saw people lining up. They was turning them out real fast. You do not have to take anything if you're not getting a driver's license. But if you get a driver's license, you have to pay the fee. And the real ID you can get if you're not getting a driver's license does not cost anything. But you have to have a birth certificate for that, because that's the one that you get on the plane and everything. Some information is going out, is being mailed to people saying they have to have a birth certificate, because I got that letter. And also I had been down there and I found out what is happening.
Now, when you say that you do need to prove, because I think with real ID, don't you have to prove citizenship? And so a birth certificate is one of the proofs of citizenship. I think you can also take your passport, but passport requires a birth certificate.
They were lining up, getting real IDs, not paying anything for them.
Okay.
That they were not getting driver's license.
Okay.
And if you get the driver's license, you have to pay the fee. The birth certificate, you get a star on your identification card. That star have all your birth certificate and marriage, name change and everything. So when I filled mine out and went up to the counter, and I told him I wanted a star, he said, you have to have a birth certificate. So I had all my information. But it did not cost anything, although I got the real ID and the star. But I didn't have to pay anything.
Okay, just so we're clear, required documents for proof of a real ID, all right, is proof of citizenship or legal status, U.S. birth certificate, valid U.S. passport or certificate of naturalization, proof of identity. One identity, you can use your passport, social security card, or current driver's license. Proof of social security number, social security card, W-2 form, or pay stub showing your full SSN. Proof of Wisconsin residency, 2 items. This is where I got in trouble. Utility bill, bank statements, mortgage document, or pay stub showing your current address. Now, this becomes a problem if you do, like a lot of our stuff now we do online, right? So we're not even getting paper bills or anything like that. Your bills are being sent to you electronically. And then name change document, marriage certificate, or divorce decree if your current name. Again, and this
you
is
do not, okay.
But yeah,
you do not have to pay for a real ID if you are not driving.
Okay.
But you do not get the star. The star allows you to get on the plane.
That's the real ID. That's the real ID.
Okay.
So you do, and they said the cost is the same as a standard renewal replacement license fee. So it is. Now, again, if you're requesting a card to vote, identification card to vote, they cannot make a charge. They cannot charge you because that's a poll tax. I think you have to indicate that I need this, like when you go into the county clerk of courts, I need a birth certificate. I need it to vote. They can't charge you for that birth certificate. And I don't think the state can charge you for the ID if you're getting the ID just to vote. You still have to do all the requirements to get that ID, right? But they can't charge you if it's used for voting.
Okay, but I had all my papers and everything.
Okay.
And I got the star, but I didn't pay anything for it.
Okay, well, lucky you.
But they are telling you that you have to have, I also got a correspondent in the mail saying, in order to get this driver's license and what have you, you have to pay a
Now,
fee.
when you said it, did that come from the Department of Transportation, or was that some other group out there?
No, that's the Department of Transportation, and I think it was phony.
Okay. Yeah, I might. You need to check, because there are groups out there that will make official-looking documents.
Right.
Right. And then they will send it out as part of that whole disinformation that you see going on. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. Still got 3 hours to go.
This is President Montgomery from the village of Brown Deer.
Yeah. Are you in the city?
Yes, sir.
How come you're not covering the program this morning?
because you got up.
No, I mean, I thought you was out the country. I'm going like, because we had Vivian King, we had Angela Harris, and I'm going like, where's Wanda?
Well, you know what? Michelle probably is giving me grace.
Oh, okay.
We've had three deaths in my family.
Sorry to hear
3
that.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was in Seattle, but I am back home.
Okay.
But I'm listening, and I just want to share a couple of tips for people. Number one, if you have your absentee ballot that you'll be mailing back, I would not take a chance of mailing it back now. I would take it to one of the drop boxes. Yep. If we recall earlier this year during the spring elections, a lot of absentee ballots got to the election commission after the election, and they were not counted. Yep. So if you want your ballot counted, I would take it to one of the drop boxes, or take it into, if you're in one of the suburban municipalities, take it into the village or your city hall, or most of those have a drop box outside of their spots too, to make sure. The other thing, I'm looking at the forecast for Tuesday. They're predicting rain. I don't know if it's all day or part of the day. If you're one that don't like to go out in the rain for whatever reason, vote early. The weather's nice, vote early. So we need everybody to get out. This election is too important. All of them are important, but this one is very important for the health and the movement forward in our state.
It's a couple of questions. One, just kind of like some house cleaning. You all have early voting in Brown Deer, correct?
Yes, and most municipalities outside of the city, but they usually only go to Friday, not Sunday. Like Milwaukee goes to Sunday, city of Milwaukee, but the other municipalities usually end on Friday.
And then the other question I have in terms of the drop boxes is that you have to drop the ballot off in the municipality that you vote in. So, for example, I can't take mine to Brown Deer and drop it off. Am I correct?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
You stick with where you live. If you're and there are people that are confused about where they live.
Oh yeah, I know.
I have people that call me all the time and say I'm in Brown Deer, and I ask them what's your address. And when I tell them, I mean, I've had people literally argue with me to say, I know I'm in Brown Deer. Well, no, you're not. You may live on Brown Deer Road. You may live off of Brown Deer close, but be sure that you put it in the right place.
All right. Well, we're certainly praying for you and your family.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Take care of yourself.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah. So again, and now here's the thing, and this could be confusing for some folks. If you are in the city of Milwaukee, you can go to the early voting locations, right? Regardless of what I don't know what we call them, districts, what your voting precinct is. And so people do get confused, because I know my mom would think, that because she shares a zip code when she was out in Brown Deer, she shares a zip code with Brown Deer. And so because people are in that zip code, there's easy thinking, oh, well, I'm in that zip code, but that zip code, like we share a zip code with Wauwatosa, right? So, and then as you get over on Center Street, you can have On one side of the street, it's Milwaukee. On the other side of the street, is Wauwatosa. You see that with the plowing, right? How the plowing is done on the Wauwatosa side of the street and how the plowing is done on the Milwaukee. But let me say this, because I ain't got nothing but mad respect. The plowing is good on the Milwaukee side of the street, but you might get like, well, how come Milwaukee hasn't been done yet? And then that across the street, well, Wauwatosa's dealing, they have less streets to do. So that becomes important. Thank you, President Montgomery, for calling in and letting us know that you want to get out, the earlier you vote. Clark might be right. Some people are 5-2, or, they're just going to sit it out. Yeah, wait to the last minute and to get out and to vote. And again, I know I used the drop box to and I'm gonna be honest with you. This wasn't as black and white as elections are usually in the, I think the general election will be very black and white, but for people who vote on the Democratic side in the Democratic primary, this has been real difficult. So if people are out here and they're a little confused or they're not sure, do you go out to show support for the front runner? Do you cast a vote for someone? I know I had a conversation with someone. They said they voted for this person, but the person that they really liked wasn't really polling very high. So is that a wasted vote, to support that person because they were more impressed with that person, or in normal circumstances, they would have voted for that person. So it has been complicated on the Democratic side in terms of how should I vote? That there are people in Milwaukee County who love David Crowley. And there are people in Dane County who loves Francesca Hone. So I mean, how do you navigate that? I appreciate that it wasn't that cut and dry, because if you're doing it, you can go with your heart or you can go with your head. What do you do? And that's it right in the background. And here's the problem. I know when I saw Will, last time I saw Will in person, he was grinning from ear to ear because, and I think the Dems have done a good job of not creating a circular firing squad where they're doing so much damage to each other that whomever the eventual nominee would be so damaged based on the incoming that they receive from folks in the Democratic Party. Again, D-Rob says, as a reminder, this election is a partisan primary. That means that you have to specify which party you are and only choose candidates from that party line. Otherwise, your vote is invalid. So even though a lot of people like Will Martin, but he's on the Republican side, but if you're on the Democratic side, you cannot cross over and vote for Will Martin. Either you're voting on the Republican side or you're voting on the Democratic side. I don't know who else has a line on the ballot. The other thing was a little confusing for me was that, at first I thought, am I looking at the Spanish ballot? Because what you'll find is that it's in English and in Spanish. And there's something around the law that says that if you have a percentage of your population reaches a certain percentage in terms of language usage, then you have to provide that language. So primarily it's usually going to be English and Spanish because of a large or growing Hispanic population. And then here's the other piece in the room. Is it about being elected? So let's assume that it's Francesca Hone and she wins. Is it about that? So then does she moderate her positions to be more palatable to in a general election? I think that in primaries, people can be more extreme. Now that could hurt the party in the general. You're seeing that a lot of times with MAGA, that these people are so MAGA extreme, but then if they're in a competitive district, the MAGA brand is losing some of its shine, and that people are kind of falling away from it. And then the question even becomes, who's going to sit at home? You know, is it going to be Democratic Socialists? Let's say that David Crowley wins, you know, the Democratic primary. Does Democratic Socialists sit at home because their person didn't win, or the you know, the opposite? I thought it was kind of a fascinating conversation yesterday with Congresswoman Moore to hear some of the terminology he was using out there, because I saw this in some of the chats on Facebook where people who were supportive of David Crowley was going like, he ain't establishment. You know, he grew up in 53206. So I don't know. Establishment is a bad word, I guess, this year in the political cycle. That, you know, it ain't like he the man. You know, like, you know, I mean, that has been really fascinating to me, and I think that if you're part of, let's say you serve in the legislature, you serve as county exec, you serve as mayor. Well, in some ways, that is established. Is that a bad thing? I mean, but that was the thing that people, and I knew that a lot of that was coming from the progressives. And then that's a bigger question that's happening on the Democratic side, is that, you know, is this really a fight for the soul of the Democratic Party? You know, where, you know, more and more progressives, because before we had Democratic Socialists, they were progressives, that the progressive part of who's going to win, or is there some middle ground that the Democratic Party will be able to achieve in order to have election success? Because people get mad when their person doesn't win, and they pick up their ball and they go home. I don't know if Democrats can afford that. I think too much is on the line. If we didn't learn anything in the last 8 years, is that based on this Republican-controlled legislature that had Tony Evers not been a Democratic governor, we would have had a whole lot of policies that a lot of us in this community would have found distasteful. And so I'm just, you know, I know how people can get, you know, like our team is our team, and then when our team loses, then we go like, man, I ain't supporting the other person. And I say, if there's any silver lining to the level of confusion on the Democratic side, is that you don't see, you know, you get a little sniping, but you're not seeing where people are just really going hard. After true, if it's over, you cannot get a passport. Someone just said, I think in Wisconsin, if you're behind in child support, you cannot get a passport. That's correct. That's correct. You will not be able to go with your girl to Jamaica. If it's $2,500 or more. There's some ways that you can resolve that, but you can contact the child support office for that. Carla, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Have you guys discussed the referendum question?
No, and because that wasn't on the ballot.
Oh, good. It's not on the ballot?
No. It'll be on the ballot.
Be on there in November?
In November. That's correct.
Oh, so we have time to discuss
Yeah,
that.
and I know people have been talking about it. Some of the candidates have been talking about it, but I think people right now being more immediate, who's going to be the nominees for the general election. And so I think that it happened, but there are some very concerning
that seemed to be
ballot initiatives out
everything
there.
is covering everything. And you know what gets me is when they want to run, you know, now everybody knows Gwen Moore has someone running against her. And I happened to be at a meeting, and the young lady came over and spoke to me. And at the time, I didn't know who she was running against until she told me. I said, oh, well, good luck. I said, and if you don't win, keep showing up. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So people can know you. I don't know you.
Right.
But I know Gwen Moore.
Okay.
And she shows up for us.
Okay.
Now, this is just what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
But I think the question becomes, even again in the Democratic Party, is there a movement towards being more progressive, and what impact will that have on incumbents? There was an incumbent who lost, and I think Congresswoman Moore referred to him yesterday in Michigan, McKinney, who was part of the progressive left, who beat an incumbent. So, I think, and again, I'm doing this at 35,000 feet. I think that there are some Dems who are a little concerned about the movement of Democratic Socialist movement and the impact it could have on some mainstream kind of Democrats.
A lot of people they don't know what the socialist thing means. So to them, you have to be saying, we're trying to protect our Social Security. We're trying to protect child care. We're trying to protect jobs. It's the same thing. Our schools, everything. But the next thing that's disturbing to me, Trump got rid of a lot of people. Where are those salaries? Where's that money going? Where they went? Remember when Elon Musk had the saw and he was just cutting out all this stuff, and the Department of Education. Those people had big salaries. What is that money now?
Well, let me see. That's part of this thing with the big beautiful bill, because what it's doing is starving the federal government of resources, right? So if you go in,
where's the money going?
The money's not going anywhere. The money's not being paid out.
Okay, so it's sitting somewhere.
Yeah. When Pete Hegseth was on the Hill a week ago, 2 weeks ago, as they were doing their budget outlay and their budget request, someone pointed out, you have billions of dollars you haven't even used yet, and you coming in asking for more money? So, yeah.
And my next thing is, we should not be paying those two senators. I'm so glad they grew a couple, okay, and stood up. Well, one's going to be retiring, and the other one must have won, so Trump didn't have nothing on it.
You're
Fix
talking
it
about
so he can't get it. But he did say he's going to find that money somewhere for those people.
Yeah, and Todd Blanche, being a lawyer, they wrote one of the most ambiguous, yeah, we will, yeah, we won't kind of thing in terms of that, because he knows Trump wants the fund. And so what are they going to do? I mean, it's going to be very difficult to impeach him just because, he did do something to them. I think Tillis and Cornyn, now, they said they're on board, but now there's Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and there's one other, Cassidy. And I think, Susan Collins is in a very competitive race there in Maine.
She better wake up.
Yeah, so she says she's coming out against him because of his position on abortion. Don't know where Lisa Murkowski is going to be, and we don't know where Cassidy. My understanding is he can only lose 2 votes. If it,
and my next thing is this. He was so worried about this money that he wanted paid to these people that raided the Capitol. But what about his family not being investigated for taxes?
That stayed in place. Now, that little piece and all of this, that stayed in place, that they will not be prosecuted.
Why would you allow a family to do that with this man, with all his, where are their brains? And then why didn't somebody make it very clear to him, you are not the president's personal attorney.
Okay.
You are the Attorney General for the United States of America.
Okay. You're right.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're not wrong at all. But that's falling on deaf ears.
And then Trump has been bleeding over the line.
Okay.
If anybody got any intelligence, get the Republicans out of there. Help them.
All right.
They want us to replace them because they don't have the balls to stand up and get out.
All right. Appreciate you. All right. Man, when I get back, it's heated up in the chat room.
Oh,
so,
you see that too, huh?
Yes, when I get back, we're going to get to that.
Fire!
Oh, it's on fire. You ain't see it, Jermaine?
I don't want to see
We inside say something real. Excuse me. I'm Keith Parris, and then for Miss Michelle Bryant. We're going to take a quick break. Man, woo. I will be right back.
Do we need a referee on the chat?
Let me go back, scroll up. Let me go back and come up. Go up. You're going up. Come up. There you go. Oh, yeah, all right. Let's go. One more. One more. Vote for the candidate of choice, and poll about 800 people there. Candidates has a much better chance. I think in Wisconsin, you're behind that the child support. True. Keep going. Keep going. I'm going in the chat room, y'all. All right. Curly Q 227 says Democrats definitely can't afford to pick up their ball and go home. Speak Up says I will not vote for Crowley in the general if he wins. North South LLC says Crowley can't. The black vote in Milwaukee is no longer valid. The support of Miss Moore and Crowley is proof of this. Zebra says education is the key. This lady is part of the problem. I don't know if he's referring to Gwen Moore. Speak Up, you'd rather have Tom Tiffany in office. Caller, do not, okay, keep going, sitting in Trump's pocket, keep going. Just because you know someone's name or they are familiar to you doesn't qualify them for office. Ms. Moore should have been retired a decade ago. Speak Up goes, I don't want Tom Tiffany, but I won't vote for Crowley. After this, I heard being said on behalf against Hong, and I fully believe he knows about it and is encouraging that he's trash. Zebra, also keep in mind that digital money will change as we go. This is the reason why we vote on the Clarity Act is important. Speak Up, I dig that. Voted yesterday. Good hope. No lines, unfortunately. Let's see. So Speak Up, to be clear, you won't vote for Crowley because of something somebody else said that you don't even know if Crowley knows that it was said. Black Milwaukee, why are we voting for, this is North-South, why are we voting for Crowley? Keep going. Black votes doesn't matter. It's about messaging. Black folks have always been the conscience of America. And this is from Futurees 3151. Always been the conscience of America. In this case, Black has been the rock of the Democratic Party in recent years. That's true. Prove it. 2, we are lazy. This person got a problem with black people.
Man, what color is that dude?
Oh, right. Man.
What color that guy is?
Michelle at J61, to be honest, we need legislation passed for the betterment of people, housing, employment, Social Security, people who are disabled and being overlooked. Future Ease, we need a educated populace in general about history and more specifically Black history, which I don't know has anything to do with this election, but okay. It's not being lazy, it's misinformation or ignorance.
Man, it sounds like it's a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but it sounds like it's an individual that's in the chat that kind of need to do homework and really find out for themselves, because again, listening to other people and not knowing for yourself could cause you to make decisions.
Well, okay, we can do it. Let's do a break. Caller, I see you. Man, thank you all for being very, well, you told me I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did, but you said,
Hello?
So caller, hold on until we come back from the break and then we'll get you in.
Okay.
All right.
You're listening to Say Something Real. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, y'all. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. Hey, I was listening to you reading the remarks about them saying they were, whoever was posting saying that they weren't going to vote for David Crowley, you know, and that's okay if they don't want to vote for David Crowley, but if Francesca Hong win it, we got to throw our support behind her, because Tom Tiffany
is extending himself from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is just punching us in the face, hitting us on top of the head. And Tom Tiffany is going to continue to do that. Can you imagine Tom Tiffany and a Republican legislature running Wisconsin? Hey, our people better wake up, because even if Francesca Hong win it and you don't vote for her, a vote that you don't give to the Democratic Party is a vote you give into the Republican Party. So y'all people better wake up. You better get over yourselves. They've made it clear that your kids are not going to have a future. Their kids are not going to have a future. And you sitting around playing petty politics, acting like your feelings hurt and all this, and you the greatest and you know it all. But I'll tell you what, if Tom Tiffany gets elected a year into his term, you're going to really see what they're about. So y'all better get y'all shit together.
Ooh. I think you can use that one, right? Can we use that?
Oh my God! No, you can't use that.
You can't use that one? Okay.
Yikes. Well, luckily I had my hand on the button.
No, you didn't. You got it out.
I got him afterwards.
No, his sentiments, though.
No, but it's true, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's true.
Okay, it's the same kind of trash Crowley wrote in his Dirt McGirt account. The people who are attacking Hong with these obscene attacks are Crowley surrogates. I don't think they're Crowley surrogates. I think they're Republicans. Look, and I'm not a campaign manager. I think what it takes to win in the primary in terms of that partisan piece is one thing. I think how you win in a general election is something else. And whomever the eventual nominee is, but if it's Francesca Hong, there has to be, they're going to have to be as much as you can without losing your integrity or certain image makeover. Because look, people vote on perception. There were many people in 2016 and in 2024 who would normally vote Democrats, but then had a problem with women, right? So now you're talking about an Asian woman. And trust me, for some people, their biases are just that. That's what they look at. You know, when you look at the Republican Party and its policies as it relates to women, one would have to wonder, why would a woman vote for a Republican when, whether you agree with abortion or not, abortion is a bigger issue. Abortion is, in my mind, a woman's right to have control over her body. And it shouldn't be for any man or anyone else to say what a woman can and cannot do with her body. Now, if you pass childbearing age, well, maybe that's not an issue for you. But it does come down to, even if you look at the Trump administration, when they were doing this purging at the Department of Defense, and the people who were they letting go? Black folks and women. Black folks and women. So, caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Hey, Keith, what's up, man?
What up, George?
I just wanted to say, because I know you can see the post, and I don't know how many people out there can. Don't get discouraged by those two people that are posting. I'm kind of like Keith. They could be plants. They could be Republicans. We know the danger. If Tom Tiffany gets in, that to me, and I'm just going to keep it straight, I'm going to say like Earl said a couple of weeks ago, that's just stupid and ignorant, that if your person does not get in, that you're going to stay at home with, that let Tom Tiffany get in. That's just stupid. And if you want to see the Trump and the Johnson get back in, you can't complain. So I don't even believe that's what people don't get discouraged by what those two people are posting. Do what you need to do at the end of the day, whether it's Crowley or whoever, Jessica, whoever it is at the end of the day, that's who we get behind. No ifs, ands, or buts. We cannot afford to stay home. I don't know how many times I got to keep coming on this radio station saying this. We cannot afford to stay home. Vote now. I know the last guy said he lives a block away. You don't know what can happen on Tuesday. Go and vote now. Get it over with. Don't be traditional. We got too much at stake for people to take those chances. Get up, go vote, so we can get this over with. We cannot afford to let Tom Tiffany get over that thing. What that song say? If you think it's lonely now, I'm say if you think it's bad now, just wait. Thank you, Chief.
All right, appreciate you.
I got a quick question because he just made me think of something real quick because I know we got to go. So if a person votes early and then passes away, will they vote still count?
Yeah. So
is that then still considered that they using people that has passed away, that they, because you know how they was
dead people voting?
Yeah, dead people voting, how they was using that whole
people
thing.
Die after, especially with early voting,
right?
They die all the time.
Oh yeah.
So yes, I mean, it wouldn't be, the difference is that I've been buried and then a vote has been cast.
Okay. Well, not because I was just only asking. I know I was only asking because there are loopholes that people can use.
Well, that ain't, if I cast my vote.
Well, I mean, I don't use you. But,
well, I got to use me because I cast my vote.
Well, somebody cast a vote early and then passes away before the election.
That vote counts.
Okay.
They did it before they died.
Well, I mean, but yeah.
Now, if they did it after they died,
then it's an issue.
How'd that go happen?
Hey, bye, man. Bye, man. Bye, Keith. Bye, man.
Jesus came back just so he can vote.
Just so he can vote. I will leave again and return the third time.
Let me thank all the callers, all the units in the chat. Y'all keep chatting, man, because I got another 2 hours. But again, let me, and Michelle, thank you for allowing me to cover for you today. Again, I want to thank everybody for being part of Say Something Real. Again, stay tuned because I pick up Community Voice at 9 o'clock. Again, thank you all, and I'm out.